When I first got my PC, one of the earliest games I got was Garry's Mod. And one day, me and my friend were playing, and he suggested that I play the game that Gmod originated from, HalfLife 2. After checking it out, I grew to love the franchise. The story, the gameplay, the characters, the music, all these things really stood out to me. And I would say that HalfLife 2 is a strong contender to be my favorite game of all time. But there is one thing that I and many others hate about being fans of Half-Life: waiting for the next game. For 12 years, fans were pretty much kept in radio silence on the status of the next game.
Are you still doing episode 3? Because I think when people...
You'll never get Half-Life 3.
Half-Life 3 started becoming less and less of an actual possibility and more of a meme subject for hopeful schizophrenics. That is until one day in 2019 when I got picked up from middle school and my brother asked me, "Hey, did you see the trailer for the new Half-Life game?" What? I was obsessed with the Half-Life Alyx news as it was coming out. I tried to watch every single video on it I could find. And one of the channels I kept up with the most was Valve News Network, now known as Tyler McVicker, who I'm gonna come back to in a minute. Anyway, I bought a VR headset, the game came out, I played it, I got motion sick, I stopped playing it, played it again, I finished it, and let me just say, absolute cinema. Now, I won't spoil the ending for those who haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, but those who know. The game pretty much confirmed that Valve wasn't scared of Half-Life anymore, and a proper conclusion to the game seemed like more and more of an actual possibility. Fast forward to now, where game journalists such as Tyler McVicker are speculating that there is a new Half-Life title in development, known as HLX. And based on how Alyx ended, it's most likely that this game that we'll be getting is in fact Half-Life 3. They're multiple years deep into development and are reportedly in the midst of playtesting. There hasn't been any official announcements from Valve, and most of this information comes from data mining and anonymous sources. So is Half-Life 3 actually coming out soon? If you ask me, I think the answer is yes. Now, if you want more information about HLX and its development, I'd send you over to Tyler's channel. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about what we're gonna see in Half-Life 3. Now, Tyler has a Discord server, and he has one channel where his fans are able to drop their predictions and things they'd like to see in the next installment of the franchise. Now, some of these predictions are really cool, and some of them are not. But because the hype is so strong right now, and there is rumor that it could be revealed at Summer Games Fest, which is in like a few days as I'm recording this, I figured now would be a good time to look over some of these predictions and discuss my thoughts on them. I'll kind of be talking about how likely I think these are and how much I'd want to see them. Also, all these predictions are a combination of ones I've seen from these users on Tyler's Discord server. So thanks to all of these guys for their predictions. Without further ado, let's get started. First up, the Zen Gorilla. Now, I'm not positive about this, but I'm pretty sure that in the Half-Life Alyx files, there's code for a cut enemy known as the Zen Gorilla.
Russ, do you think a head crab could turn a gorilla into a zombie?
Honestly, if there's a gorilla on the loose, I'm not sure a head crab's gonna make it much worse.
I have no idea what this would look like, but fighting a gorilla from Zen sounds like it could be pretty sweet. And because we already know there's concepts of it lying around, I feel like this one could be pretty likely. It sounds cool, and I'd like to see it. Next up, we got the Hound Eye. Now, I didn't love the Hound Eye in the first Half-Life game. I wasn't too sad to find that it wasn't in any future entries. But I feel like if they're doing what they're doing with the destructive environments, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, I feel like the Hound Eye could be a really cool enemy for that. Them making that sound and vibrating the area so things come crumbling down around it, it could make for some cool combat. I could see this one happening, and if they implemented those destruction elements, I'd like to see that. Next we have the Blob Enemy. Now, for those of you who don't know, this blob thing was a cut enemy from Half-Life 2 Episode 3. It's basically this big gel-based blob that could be split apart if you attacked it, and then there'd be little pieces of it kind of moving around on the floor. This one doesn't sound too exciting to me as it is, and I could see them kind of moving away from that scrapped idea. We finally get to see the Cremator. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Cremator was a cut enemy from Half-Life 2. It was basically this tall Combine soldier who had a flamethrower to get rid of trash and bodies on the side of the street by burning it. But having access to a flamethrower weapon, especially with those destructive environments, would be really fun. I feel like they've still hinted at the idea of the Cremator existing, so I could see this one happening, and I think it's a really cool idea. Alright, kind of what I was talking about before with the destructible environments. I'm pretty sure that Source 2 has a lot of code in it that has to do with destruction. Specifically, I think it's voxel-based destruction, which means that shooting and blowing up things around you could have a huge impact on the gameplay. I feel like most games have become pretty stagnant in the amount of destructibility there is in the environment. Usually you shoot in a wall, bullet holes, you shoot glass, the glass breaks. But imagine if you were playing a game and you hit the side of a house with a rocket launcher and then the whole house came crumbling down. That's the type of destruction I hope to see, and I think it's pretty likely. Next we have the gravity gloves return, and you can use the crowbar like Thor's hammer. This would be really sick if you're like fighting somebody with the crowbar and you like throw it to somebody in the distance and then catch it like in God of War. That probably looked really lame. I think this is a sick idea, but I don't really see it happening. Aww. Weapon that fires gibs/debris/small props like a machine gun. Could be known as the Gravity Gun 2 or the Weaponizer. I'm pretty sure the Weaponizer was another cut weapon from Half-Life 2 Episode 3. I don't know exactly what it was supposed to do, but this sounds like it could be really fun. Especially if Valve kept messing around with physics and seeing how far they could push it. I think this would be cool. I'm not sure about how likely it is though. Weapon wheel. Well, really pushing what they're capable of. This is asking a little bit too much. I don't really know how many weapons we're going to be getting in Half-Life 3. I hope we get more than we did in Half-Life 2. But I don't know if we're gonna need that many, but I have no idea what the heads-up display is gonna look like in this game. Hopefully it's an upgrade from Half-Life 2, but it still keeps that simple style. Weapon/gear upgrades. Now I think having the ability to upgrade your weapons like we were able to in Half-Life Alyx was really nice for that game, because I feel like they were trying to keep it to a small number of one-handed weapons. But in Half-Life 3, I feel like we're gonna have a much wider array of weapons to use. And I feel like it could get a little bit convoluted if we started to upgrade all of them. Not saying it's impossible, but I don't think it's entirely likely, and I don't really need it if we're getting a bunch of new weapons. Which hopefully we are. Hopefully we are. Visible body in first person. Now originally in all the Half-Life games, if you look down, you just see the floor. But I think Valve is starting to implement in games like CS2 where you look down, you see the character's feet. I feel like this would be a really nice, cool, easy change, and I could see it happening. Reworked movement/parkour system. Now the movement in the other Half-Life games has been pretty bare bones. It's basically walk, jump, and sprint. But if you could like grapple walls or you like had some kind of jetpack, I feel like that would be really fun and make for a lot of dynamic combat situations. Especially like hopping from building to building in City 17, I feel like that'd be really fun. I could see this happening and I feel like it's a really welcome change. Eye-tracking gameplay elements. Now I know Gabe Newell kind of likes messing around with weird new technologies, but I don't think there's a good enough eye-tracking system across the majority of webcams. I don't really know how they'd really implement eye tracking. Maybe the characters could like always be making eye contact with you. That could be kind of cool. But it just seems kind of impractical. I don't really see this happening and I don't really need it. Gordon's ponytail is back with physics. This one must happen. Half-Life 3 will have neural networks for all its NPCs and respond to you speaking in the mic. That's funny. Do you guys remember those Honest trailers? They'd have one for like a movie or a video game and it's that guy with like the really deep voice. I remember he made like a fake trailer before I even knew what Half-Life was. I watched it. But one of the things he said that was in the game was like AI that responds to you.
Gordon Freeman never had a voice until now. Yours. Interact with the characters using your own natural voice for an infinite number of infinitely branching conversations.
And back then it sounded funny, but nowadays we have like the Fortnite AI Darth Vader.
Is this Hoktua a basic tribal chant, Peter Griffin?
Would Valve implement this? I don't really know. I feel like they want to have more control with the story and dialogue, and I feel like AI just in general is kind of a touchy subject when it comes to writing. I don't really see this happening, and I don't really know if I'd want it, but I don't think it's completely out of the picture.
It starts with
One thing, I don't know why.
The Mark V HEV suit breaks, and we get Suit 6. I feel like this could happen near the beginning of the game. Maybe with the suit we get a new heads-up display, some new gameplay features. I could see this one happening. Barney finally gets us that beer.
Hey, catch me later, I'll buy you a beer.
Return to America in a Zen-infested wasteland site, abandoned by the Combine. I always like the idea how in Half-Life Alyx they have this globe where they can see where the Combine's been, and over North America there's basically a big red X over it. It really makes me curious to see how America ended up. I think it's possible we might be going back to Black Mesa in this game, so I feel like going back to America isn't entirely out of the realm of possibility. I could potentially see this realistically happening, but I think it would be really cool. Visiting Aperture Labs. Now I feel like Valve kind of wants to keep the worlds of Portal and Half-Life separated. I know they technically take place in the same universe, but I don't think they'd go as far as to put Chell in a Half-Life game or throw Gordon in a test chamber. I do love those games, but I'm not sure how likely they are to be implemented in Half-Life 3. At least to the extent of actually visiting Aperture Labs. Alex uses her newfound Vortessence powers to meet characters in Stasis. I feel like this could be a really cool way to get a bunch of characters to team up against the G-Man or find out more about his intentions. Plus, it could be really cool seeing a character like Adrian Shepard appear again. I think something like this will happen, and I think it'd be cool to see. It won't be the last main Half-Life game, despite ending Gordon's story. I feel like this one's accurate. The wait for Half-Life 3 has been so long. I think they really just need to give people a solid conclusion to at least one aspect of the story. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did leave the door open for future stuff in the series. We'll go to the Borealis and try to use it against the G-Man. I feel like they are going to try and stray away from a lot of the Borealis stuff. Seems like the Borealis was going to be kind of the main focus where you spend pretty much your entire time in episode 3. But I feel like now that the scope of the game has expanded, we're going to be going into a lot more different areas. I could see the Borealis still appearing in the game, but maybe in just a small aspect. Probably near the beginning. And I don't think that they're necessarily going to defeat Gman, but I'll get to that in a little bit. I could see the Borealis thing being likely though. Gnome Chsky. Most of you probably know this, but there's an achievement in Half-Life 2 Episode 2 where you find a gnome at the beginning of the game, and you have to carry it with you throughout the entire game. They also brought this back for Half-Life Alyx as well. I feel like this is a really fun and cool tradition, and I definitely see this one happening. We go to Zen, and it looks amazing, even better than Black Mesa. Black Mesa was the fan-made remake of Half-Life 1, and the whole Zen area in the game looks really cool. But I feel like this game will finally give us the full scope of what Valve was envisioning with Zen. Gordon speaks for the first time.
Let's play football.
I do not think they'll do this one. I feel like Gordon works best as a silent protagonist, and hearing somebody else try and do the voice would probably just come off as jarring. So I don't really want this one, and I don't see it happening. In order to stop Gordon, Gman hires the entirety of Team Fortress. This one sounds funny, but I don't think this will happen at all. I don't think Team Fortress is even in the same universe as Portal and Half-Life. Plus, it just wouldn't fit the this one's just not gonna happen. That would be funny though. It will be weirdly obvious that the writers were trying hard to not use anything that Mark Lelaw wrote in Epistle 3. For those of you who don't know, Mark Lelaw was the original writer for the Half-Life games before he retired from the company. He released kind of like a fan fiction for what Episode 3 would have looked like on some kind of blog page. It was called Epistle 3 and it hinted to a lot of the ideas of what we were likely to see in Half-Life 2 Episode 3. So I'm not exactly sure where they're going to go with the story, but I am pretty positive that this prediction is correct, and we are going to see very few of the elements that were in Epistle 3.
Hi, I'm Saul Goodman.
Gman will be fired. I feel like Gman is a character who's too powerful for us to really defeat, but I can see by the end of this game he's not really defeated by us, but he's at least fired and maybe loses some of his power. I could see this happening, and I feel like if it was done right, it could be a cool way to send off Gman as the antagonist. Gordon and Alex will return to a different timeline in order to have a better future. I could see this maybe happening, but I feel like Alex is already so connected with so many aspects of their timeline. Maybe Gordon, but I feel like Gordon isn't really a character who needs to like go on and live a better life. Maybe they go to different timelines, but I don't think they'd stay there for like a happy ending. The game ends with a teaser for the HalfLife movie, directed by J.J. Abrams. I am Gordon Freeman. This will definitely not happen at the end of the game, but I think that the HalfLife movie isn't completely out of the picture. They talked about it for a while a few years back, and I don't know, it could be kind of cool. I definitely think they'd keep it separate from the game though. Might not be defeated, but the Combine are at least held off, or are revealed to have a major weakness that inspires other worlds and universes to rise up. I think that this is a good idea. I feel like the Combine is too big for them to be completely defeated in the span of one game, but it could have a hopeful ending, and it's kind of inferred that the Combine are eventually defeated. Unless Valve decides they still want to do Half-Life stuff in the future, I think this would be a solid ending. Less than $60. Some people have been throwing around the idea that just to stick it to a company like Rockstar or Nintendo for charging like $80 for games, they're gonna make Half-Life 3 like $45. I do not see this one happening because Half-Life Alyx was still $60, and I feel like Half-Life 3 is gonna be on a much wider scope than that game. So I'm guessing it'll still be around $60 though. Reveal trailer at Summer Games Fest and release later this year. Now Summer Games Fest, like I said, is in a few days, and I could kind of see this happening. I'm pretty sure they owe Jeff Keighley a favor, who hosts both the Game Awards and Summer Games Fest. When Half-Life Alyx was coming out, they were supposed to show something about it at the Game Awards, but it never really went through. Now Valve are a bunch of perfectionists, so they're probably not going to show it off if they're not ready. But because they're so late into development and they owe Jeff that favor, I think this one is not entirely out of the realm of possibility. But I would love to see it revealed at some kind of big event. I would love to go back and see the live reactions of people when Half-Life 3 actually gets announced. So I feel like this would be a really good opportunity for it. Okay, I think that was all the predictions I had written down. We really have no idea what this game will look like, and I think just speculating on it can be really fun. So if you have any predictions or things you'd like to see in Half-Life 3, please leave a comment. I read all of them. And just remember, Half-Life 3 will be announced at Summer Games Fest.